Market is signaling that Meta and its Llama series, Meta is actually leaning back away from open source. But for organizations that are dealing with highly sensitive data, I mean, with your audience, they're dealing with HIPAA-oriented data or medically sensitive data or whatever it might be, having the best local model that you can manage is absolutely a thing. Now, they just don't really realize it.
That's right. That's right. And that's also the fear, right? As you run several companies, well, two major. On the product side of things, you get to think about the fact that, OpenAI and Anthropics and, DeepSeek and all the rest, some of the tools that you're shipping, you see that they're starting to implement some of the features within their platform. And then you start to think, is this a smart, idea for me to provide certain services to my clients, or should I be using a different approach, right? Which comes to the question of, a week ago, OpenAI released, I think that was the first open source model, if I'm not mistaken, since they went live in 2022. So they released an open source model, similar to DeepSeek, and this has been a while. And so it's just a question of, is that something that you're starting to think about that, maybe, well, for the clients who need it, who say, data privacy and everything, you can sell me on whatever you want to sell me, but I need local hosting, I need on-prem hosting. Is that something that you started to think about, or you have, different ways to approach that? Maybe you use, cloud services like AWS and, Google's cloud services.
Absolutely. So it's the OSS model is the new
Yes.
GPT open source model. It's particularly relevant because the market is signaling that Meta and its Llama series, Meta is actually leaning back away from open source. But for organizations that are dealing with highly sensitive data, I mean, with your audience, they're dealing with HIPAA-oriented data or medically sensitive data or whatever it might be, having the best local model that you can manage is absolutely a thing. Now, on-prem versus in cloud would be a little bit of a debate. So, Dell is trying to sell everyone on their on-prem servers such that they're basically trying to resurrect business lines that have been suffering ever since, the cloud came about, and trying to convince law firms and medical establishments that they need to have their own servers that are cooking in the basement. And you, of all people, know the sort of infrastructure that would have to be in place to maintain those things, plus the capital expenditure. So on-prem, I would quibble with a little bit, because if you're already using Azure, or you're using AWS, and your data permissions are set up in a way that it's been adequate for the rest of the business, I don't really see the need to do that. I don't see that being achievable for organizations that sit in the mere mortal realm for finding the right talent, for having the right CapEx, etc. That aside, spinning up your own captive model is definitely something that we see quite a bit in these sensitive areas. Now, you and I had a sidebar a while ago about my work with a really crazy giant biotechnology company.